Hey everyone, and welcome. Today, we've got a true story for you. A story that completely puzzled the police, bank security experts, and even federal investigators. The level of intelligence behind the way the Benton Bank was robbed surpassed every security protocol and precaution imaginable. It all began on a quiet Monday morning, April 13th, 1981. In a small town in the state of Illinois, life seemed perfectly normal. The sky was pale gray, the streets were nearly empty, and the shops were slowly opening their doors. But no one had the slightest idea that this peaceful little town was about to make history, because within just a few hours, it would witness one of the strangest and smartest bank robberies America had ever seen. And before we dive in, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and hit the like button so we can keep bringing you more amazing stories like this one. In a small bank called Benton Bank, a young employee walked in early to start her morning shift as usual. Everything seemed perfectly normal. The large metal vault at the end of the hallway was tightly sealed, and the safety deposit boxes were neatly lined up behind thick steel walls that seemed impossible to breach. The place was so quiet that the faint clinking of keys echoed through the room. But just a few hours later, that calm would turn into absolute shock. At around 10 o'clock in the morning, an elegant woman in her 50s, one of the bank's longtime clients, walked in and asked to open her safety deposit box. The process was routine. The employee held the master key, and the client held her personal one. Both keys had to be turned at the same time. But the moment they turned the keys, the lock fell inward. A strange silence filled the air as they exchanged uneasy glances. "That's odd," whispered the employee. She reached out, opened the box carefully, and then froze. The box was completely empty. At first, the bank employee thought there must have been some kind of mistake. Maybe the boxes got mixed up or someone was doing maintenance. But the moment she started opening the boxes around her, the real shock hit. More than 70 safe deposit boxes had been opened. Their locks were broken from the inside, and everything inside, gold, jewelry, important documents, even rare coins, had vanished as if they'd never existed. And the strangest part? There were no signs of a break-in. No broken doors, no holes in the walls, not even a scratch on the windows or air vents. The main vault door, that massive steel beast, was still perfectly locked, and the time lock system was running as usual. It was a crime without a crime scene. Local police arrived first, followed soon after by the FBI, since the bank was under federal jurisdiction. After hours of searching and forensic work, the conclusion was jaw-dropping. No fingerprints, no footprints, no broken tools, no traces of forced entry. Not a single clue that could point to who or what had done it. The only things they found inside the vault were an old alarm clock and a few simple metal tools, hammers, pliers, screwdrivers. But none of that could explain how anyone could have entered a vault with a precision time lock, or how they could have gotten out before the door sealed itself automatically until the next morning. That week, the papers ran huge headlines: "The perfect heist in Benton," and "Thieves rob bank without a trace." The truth, however, was both simpler and far more unsettling. It wasn't thieves in the plural. It was a single man, William Smarto. In his mid-30s, handsome and always well-groomed with carefully styled hair, he worked as a barber in the neighboring town. Beneath that calm exterior, though, was a brilliant mind obsessed with puzzles. Since childhood, he'd been endlessly curious about how things worked. Locks, alarm systems, time-locked doors, even the electrical systems that ran banks. He never trained as an engineer in the conventional sense. He'd entered that world, as some would say, through the dark door. His career began as a small-time thief in jewelry shops, but he didn't steal just for money. He used to say, "It's about how you get in, not how much you get out." One day, while cutting the hair of a Benton bank employee, he overheard him boasting about a newly installed vault. "That vault is theft-proof now," the man said with pride. "Even if someone drills, the alarm will trip in seconds." William smiled faintly and replied, "There's nothing theft-proof. They just haven't tried the right person." From that remark, the idea for the plan was born. For months, he studied the bank without drawing attention. He rented a safety deposit box under a fake name, George Harris, and became a regular customer, showing up almost every week. Always polite and smiling, he charmed the staff and even brought sweets sometimes, until the woman in charge of the vault trusted him completely. On each visit, he would enter the vault alone for a few minutes, claiming he was depositing important documents. But the truth ran deeper. He was smuggling in small tools, piece by piece, screwdrivers, batteries, wires, and precision metal cutting instruments. He never hid them in the same place twice, once tucked above the false ceiling of his rented box, which he discovered wasn't actually concrete, another time behind a side ventilation panel. Quietly and methodically, he built the stage for his operation inside the vault itself, right under everyone's noses. But one major obstacle stood in his way: the acoustic alarm system. The vault was fitted with sensors tuned to detect any drilling, pounding, or unusual vibration, and they would trigger the alarm within seconds. William was smart enough to know that the vault's security system relied on ultra-sensitive microphones connected to a delicate electrical circuit. One day, he decided to try something clever. He carefully opened one of those tiny microphones, slowly, patiently, and disabled it from the inside, in a way that looked completely untouched from the outside. When he was done, he wanted to make sure his trick actually worked. So he hid a small alarm clock inside the vault ceiling and set it to ring at midnight after the bank was locked for the night. That evening, William sat silently inside his car, parked a few meters away, eyes fixed on the bank. Then the alarm went off. He watched, waiting for sirens, for flashing lights, anything. But nothing happened. No alarm, no police, silence. The security system was death. William smiled and whispered to himself, "The system is blind. The game starts now." He chose Saturday, April 11th, very carefully, the perfect day for his plan. The bank was closed on Sundays, which meant he'd have a full 48 hours inside the vault before it opened again Monday morning. That morning, he walked in as usual, wearing his calm, friendly smile. The clerk greeted him warmly. "Good morning, Mr. George. Same as always." He chuckled softly. "As always, dear. 15 minutes and I'll be out." He stepped into the vault, and the heavy door closed behind him. But this time, he didn't come out. Quietly, William climbed on top of the safety deposit boxes and squeezed himself into a narrow space he had discovered earlier. A tiny gap, barely half a meter wide. Cramped, dark, but just enough for his slim body to hide without being seen. Moments later, the main vault door locked automatically. William was sealed off from the world. Inside, it was pitch black. The air was heavy. But William was ready. He had brought supplies for 2 days: some food, water, a small flashlight, and a precise set of tools. He waited until everything outside went still, then began his work. With surgical precision, he opened each box one by one. He broke the locks from the inside so there'd be no visible damage, took what he wanted, and closed them again as if nothing ever happened. He didn't steal everything, only what was rare and valuable: gold coins, diamonds, precious jewelry. In some boxes, he left everything untouched, as if to send a message: "I could take it all, but I don't want it all." Saturday passed, then Sunday. William remained buried in that metal tomb, calm and focused. By the end of the second night, his mission was complete. He cleaned every trace, packed his tools, and carefully restored the vault to perfect order. Then he slipped back into his hiding spot and waited for Monday morning. Monday morning. The employee walked in and opened the vault just like she did every day. Everything seemed perfectly normal. A few minutes later, she left, and the moment the door shut behind her, William stepped out of his hiding place, dressed in a maintenance uniform he had stashed there earlier. He carried 2 bags stuffed with gold and jewelry and calmly walked out of the bank in plain sight. No one suspected a thing. After all, the bank had scheduled maintenance work that very day. He got into his brother Vincent's car, waiting just outside, and together they drove out of town quietly, leaving behind a mystery that would baffle America. Months went by. The investigation hit a dead end, and the FBI eventually called it a crime with no evidence. But nearly a year later, in another bank in Chicago, a janitor noticed someone moving above the ceiling late at night. When he confronted the man, the stranger smiled confidently and said, "I'm with maintenance, just finishing up here." Something about his voice felt off. The janitor called the police, and when they arrived and opened the ceiling, they found a man hiding inside with a bag full of tools. It was him, William Smart. Police arrested him on the spot, along with the same alarm clock, keys, and tools he'd used in the Benton heist. After days of questioning, he confessed to everything: how he planned the job, studied the layout, disabled the security system, and survived 2 full days inside a steel vault without breaking down. His confession became a lesson to the world. After the incident, the federal government introduced new regulations banning false ceilings inside vaults and requiring designs with no empty spaces or hidden corners. Alarm systems were upgraded too, with sound, heat, and motion sensors, ensuring that such a smart loophole could never happen again. William was sentenced to 20 years in prison, but after returning most of the stolen goods, worth over $1 million at the time, about $3.5 million today, his sentence was reduced to just 8 years. In his final hearing, one of the investigators asked, "Why'd you do it, William? For the money? The fame?" He smiled and said quietly, "I wasn't stealing money. I was stealing the challenge." And that's how one of the most brilliant heists in U.S. history came to an end. A robbery with no broken windows, no cut wires, and no violence. A crime executed by a single mind. A man who proved that intelligence, when aimed in the wrong direction, can make even a crime perfect.